My name is Susan Strickler. Today's date is May 11th, 2013. We are at the Art Institute of New York, and we are interviewing Christine Choy for the New York Women in Film, Television, and New Media Archive. For the purpose of our archive, we're going to start with some basic information. Please tell me your name, when and where you were born, city and state.
I was born in Shanghai, People's Republic of China, 1953. At the time, my name was Choy Hui. Then after period of living in China, we moved to Korea. And at that time, my name became Choy He. And I came to the United States at the age of 14 after being baptized as Catholic. So my name became Teresa Chai. And Chai and Choy is the same Chinese character. However, the Koreans pronounce that in America as Choy, C-H-O-I. Chinese, anglicized as C-H-O-Y. Then I got married to a Jewish boy, and his last name is Siegel. So you can see my name, Christine Ming Hui Cho Chai Siegel. So now I shortened it all together, it became Christine Choy. Got it?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I got you.
Okay.
I'm a teacher.
Rolling camera.
We're going to talk a little bit about your background. What did you study in school?
I started at, what do you mean, high school or college?
College.
College. I studied physics and painting in first year. And then at that first year, I was in the Manhattanville College of the Sacred Heart. And the nuns were really nice, gave me a job at the Metropolitan Museum selling postcards. We were usually, the members get discount. We never gave members discount, we just pocket money. And this one day, these two guys, was trying to buy postcards from me. He says, well, what do you study? I said, physics and art and painting. So, well, you should be an architect. I said, that's an interesting idea. So, but Manhattanville didn't have architecture department. So they said, well, you should come to Columbia, apply Columbia. And of course, Columbia was all guys. So I transferred to Barnard and I registered in Barnard and I took classes at Columbia. And of course, Columbia Architecture School, there were only two women, me and another woman who was married to a doctor. And it was pretty tough. I never had a female teacher, never had a teacher of a color. But I had an incredible professor named Buckminster Fuller, who was like inventor of a geodesic dome. He had this idea, the classroom should not contain in the building, it should be outside. And especially, he was the big father of building the geodesic dome. And they were doing something like that in St. Louis, Missouri. And St. Louis has a school called Washington University, supposed to be a very reputable architecture school. And of course, all the men, white men, what's the men, famous architects were, made that, contribution in Chicago. So I transferred to Washington University and, did some studies in, Chicago area, Lakeshore Drive, and at the same time, I realized there were a lot of ghettos in Chicago, East St. Louis. East St. Louis especially has a very famous, project called Pru-Igo, and subsequently they blew the whole thing up because it was so poorly built. So from the Washington U, then I applied to transfer to Princeton, and because at that time Frank Gehry was teaching Princeton. He couldn't find a job because his building was not aesthetically pleasing, and he's got an attitude. His design is all crooked, unlike Mies van der Rohe, very straightforward, iron pay, high-rise glass building, and so he was teaching there. So I transferred to Princeton, and luckily Princeton at that time in my class we had 3 women, believe it or not. That was from 2 to 3. It was big increase. He was teaching us a very different kind of aesthetics that almost like a Loewe tradition. You not only design the exterior, but you also have to take meticulous consideration of interior, furniture, lamp, etc. So, and so our training was much more multidisciplinary. We had to do welding, sculpture, carving, relief, build models and drawing, and the figure drawing, and 3D perspectives, and of course, and architecture drawings. However, we also have to take architecture history, but that drove me nuts. First of all, my English wasn't good, okay? Then on top of that, this dumb architect's name, I cannot even pronounce. You had not to mention the spelling. They're from Italy, they're from Brazil, France. It's a very, very Western-oriented discipline. These guys come in and they just flash the slides. We had to write down the name of a building and the name of an architect. So it was tough. So I was very good at design partially because my background, before I was 14, I'd experienced many different kind of a society, both colonialism, neo-colonialism, and Shanghai once was occupied by, mega colonialists. So Shanghai as a city, you have buildings built by Dutch, built by British, built by French, there's French Quarter, and by the Japanese, etc. So you expose a much more international style when you were younger. Then in Hong Kong, of course, was occupied by Britain for 97 years. So all the buildings are very British oriented. Then we moved to Korea. Korea, once upon a time, was occupied by Japanese. So a lot of Korean architecture was very much similar to Japanese architecture, open space and etc. Of course, in China, itself has very different kind of architecture design. Shanghai was very famous for gated area, like a French, we call Longtang, whereas in Beijing, you have all this, Siheyuan, meaning the courtyard is in the middle, and you have a main building, second building, third building, which was designed for concubines, the main wife or third wife or fourth wife, whatever the master sleeps with, stays in one building, and concubines stays on the other side of the building. So very sexist, So it was very disappointing, I was very, very frustrated. But at that time, it was interesting at Princeton because there was a bunch of radical Marxists in the philosophy department. They would start showing films about how North Vietnamese fought back against American GIs, regardless, with chemical warfare and napalms. And ultimately, their prediction was corrected. Vietnam won the war. And so one day they showed this film by Joris Even, who was a Dutch filmmaker, and it's called Inside North Vietnam. And when I saw the film, my tears just coming uncontrollable, because I never realized these tiny little Vietnamese women carrying this AK-42 and AK-47 and lived underground and fought with their whole heart and in everything, against the Americans. American had all the equipment, but as you know, Earl Mars made a film called The Fog of War. Ultimately, he interviewed General
MacArthur?
Huh?
No, no, MacArthur's World War II.
What's his name? Not Montgomery. General, anyway, who was the leading general in Vietnamese War. And that they followed the general all the way back to Vietnam, and he met his enemy. And was really interesting conversation. And the general from Vietnam saying, "You Americans do not understand. Why you here? First of all, we don't want to be communist. We don't want to be socialist. We just want to be independent. We fought so hard, Ho Chi Minh fought against independence against the French. Now your American comes in, thinking that we're going to join the Communist Party. You have no idea. Our citizens, our people, we will fight until the last person exists on earth, and we're going to win." So he was a little shocked, So when I saw the film like that, it really moved me and changed my concept. I said, I never thought about film can have such strong influence, regarding your consciousness and dealing with your outlook about the world. So that was when I began to sort of interested in filmmaking. But when I was a child in China, and I was sort of cute, you know, I don't know, maybe I was whiter than white people. You know, usually, the diplomats come in and they would send me to airport, give flowers and stuff like that. So I was also, hey, being an actress would be interesting. But my parents said, hell no, you know, no way. But when I was in Korea, at that time I was around age 9 or 10, we went to overseas Chinese school because my Korean was poor and my English was nowhere to be found. And there are 45,000, GIs stationed in Korea. Believe it or not, they're stationed in on Fifth Avenue. They had freedom more than anybody natives had. Natives had to go back to home. There's a curfew at midnight. The GIs hang out on the street with the hookers, black GIs. You see this, the Korean woman will say, hey, brother. And you see white GIs, hey, Yankee, and stuff like that, it's completely segregated. They need entertainment because they have no idea what they're doing in South Korea, because menace of the communist North, right? So they need a lot of entertainment. So theater was filled with movies, Hollywood movies. But Korean at that time was under the military dictatorship. So all the girls had to cut their hair above their ear, and the boys had to shave their head. And they have uniforms. And we, as Chinese, were the scumbags, we're the minorities. They don't give a damn about us. We can be corrupted by American movies. So we are allowed to go see movies with our Chinese school uniform. So I was very diligent. Saturday, we have a class until noon. I ran home, did all my homework. Next thing I knew, took a uniform off, and then, you still had to carry a badge as an ID. Went to the movie theater, so I was just immersed by American movie. Of course, I'd never seen any minority, African Americans or Asians or Latinos. And I remember I saw Gone with the Wind, but I didn't remember the maids at the time. I just only remember, like Elizabeth Taylor, stuff like that. So I said, wow, America is really great. Everybody seems like every day they're partying, and dressed so cool. And people are having great time. And Natalie Wood, so pretty with the big eyes. In love with Steve McQueen or one of them, James Dean. He's so cute, And everything seems like perfect. So I started dreaming about coming to the United States, But we had very few choice as a minority in Korea. I was not able to go to top school in Korea in terms of college because my Korean language is not sophisticated enough. But since we were in Korea was very, very anti-communist. So obviously, the only choice we had was going to Taiwan, who's anti-communist, or Hong Kong. Chinese is a very complex country because composed so many different languages. Hong Kong, for instance, speaks Cantonese. Cantonese is diametrically different than Mandarin or Shanghainese, where I grew up. You can even communicate. It's one of the most ancient language. Even the characters are different. So obviously, I was not able to applying to the Hong Kong. But we have this called sort of like a SAT, but it's not really SAT, general examination for overseas Chinese population. And I took the exam very young. I think I was about 14 or 15, 14, I took the exam. And I scored very high. I was very good at math, like all Chinese, and I also can draw. So I got in one of the top universities in Taiwan. I said, I don't want to go to anti-communist country. And through the school, I got really smart, smart in a way, not in the literal sense. If I joined Catholic Church were able to provide me to go to Catholic school. Catholic school, since it's run by the nun and with the international appeal. So I transferred from Chinese school to Sacred Heart, Ave Maria, okay? And from Sacred Heart, which is an international school, from Sacred Heart, Korea, I transferred to Yokohama Sacred Heart. Why? Why Sacred Heart so famous? The Queen of Japan today graduate from Sacred Heart. All the Kennedy family graduate from Sacred Heart. You know, Rose Kennedy, John Kennedy, Ethel Kennedy, you name it. So I said, wow, that's a nice way, you know, to get to United States. Believe it or not, I got in the Sacred Heart in the United States. And I came, at the time immigration was in Hawaii, and whoever invented those suitcases with a wheel should get the Nobel Prize. Me, carried this huge leather suitcase, my father's. I mean, me, skinny little girl. And at that time, America was so distrust anybody from Asia. We had to have an X-ray. That means you don't have a TB, tuberculosis, okay? So there's a huge X-ray. The immigration had to check, you know. So I carried the X-ray, but the stuff from, there was, from Korea, we stopped in Tokyo. From Tokyo, we stopped in Alaska to Hawaii, because, you know, the refuel. Somehow, somewhere, I lost my X-ray, believe it or not. So when I arrived at Hawaii immigration, I didn't have my X-ray. Holy Moses. So I started crying, and there was immigration woman was very nice. So don't worry. You know, we'll put you on the next flight. You can go to New York. So I got to New York, and two girls picked me up from Manhattanville, and with the, you know, hair blown, and it was, I think it was a red sports car, and picked me up from JFK, blasting music. I think it was, at that time was not Beatle, what was it?
Rolling Stone?
Huh?
Rolling Stones?
Not Rolling Stone. Another English group was pretty well known. I didn't remember, but the wind was blowing and music was screaming, you know. So when I got to the school, and the nun at the time still wear this bat outfit, you know, black, you know, and they hugged me. You know, in Asia, we don't hug, you know. So, I got so scared. And they looked at my record. Obviously, I was way too young to go to college. Way too young. Plus, I couldn't even speak a word of English. So they sent me back to the high school on Fifth Avenue and 81st Street, the Sacred Heart. I was the only person lived with the nuns because it was commuter school. I had to eat with them. And every morning I had to make the beds where the corners are sticking in, you know, all kinds of stuff. I had to go to church. And at that time they were praying and with the Latin, you know, something crazy, you know, always praying. And from a communist country, all of a sudden see this, you know, crazy woman, you know, like, you know, I just very confused. But since, you know, I had nobody, I didn't know anyone in the United States. And some classmates were very nice. There was one black girl named Gwen Evans, very pretty girl. But she had a long hair. And I think it was a Thanksgiving or something. She took me to her house. She lived up near Harlem or somewhere. And she washed her hair. And her mother, she put her hair on the ironing board. Her mother was ironing her hair. I said, what's going on? You know, it was totally shocked to me. Then after dinner, I don't know what's going on either, you know. After dinner, the father started to distribute this little chocolate. And she said, well, you don't need it. I said, what is it? This is called, it's a digesting chocolate. I think it was called X-Lex. Because the rest of the family was a little too heavy. Gwen was the only skinny one. So I met her, okay. She was very nice. She became an expert in Russian studies, I heard much later. Then there was Junko Tozaki. She smoked. She's from Brazil, you know, and, oh no, she's from Japan. She started showing me how to smoke cigarettes, you know, she smoked can. So I was starting to learn how to smoke cigarettes. And since then, I still haven't quit. Can you believe it? This is Catholic school for you. And of course, if I have a date, a so-called date, you know, I was still virgin as hell. I didn't even know how to use tampons or stuff like that. We didn't have no sex education. So this guy tried to date me, but I have to be at nunnery by 6 p.m. Sometimes Friday, they were nice enough to let me out until 8 p.m. So that's how, you know, I stayed and I improved my English and did it pretty well. So I went to Manhattanville, which was in Purchase, New York, and started living in a dormitory and with all the girls. without knowing, the principal of the Catholic women's school quit. She said, I don't want to be a nun anymore. Elizabeth McCormick. She said, this Catholic church is too phony, and too hypocritic. So she marries to a Jewish guy and splits, left the school. Wow, and that's when I started to realize also, okay, maybe I should not stay here too long. And the nuns were really nice. They transferred me to Barnard and coming to New York City. I got really bad, learning how to do disco dancing, hang on to Greenwich Village, try to be cool with the jazz, blues, and electric circus, and there was concerts every night. Everybody was smoking pot, dropping acid. And then the Richie Haven was singing in the Washington Square Park. It was really exciting, really, really exciting. So it was problem, obviously, because I was in school of architecture, requires a tremendous amount of hours for designing or learning all different disciplines and etc. And you don't go to sleep. So the medical students were really nice. They supplied us with a speed, okay? So we're popping speed. So sometimes a whole week I don't go to sleep, between having good time and go to school. Finally, hit the fan. My best girlfriend, Junko Dozaki, from Japan, gets married to this Catholic boy. She subsequently divorced. And she was working for later she worked for Como as a press person. She gets married in the St. Patrick's Church. I was the only bridesmaid, She made a gown with the matching shoes, I think the whole 9 yards, and I was her bridesmaid. I overslept. I never showed up at the wedding because I was doing my crash after speed. And I woke up and I called her. Those days you didn't have your cell phone. You call her up. She picked up the phone. She said, I will never speak to you. Boom, hung up the phone. The end. So I've been speaking to her for a long time until she became press person with the Como, and we got hooked up together. And she's very happy.
So now we have to get on to your career.
My career. So I finished my architecture, and I was working for Madison Street and Madison Avenue architecture firm called Helmut Obata Kasava. I hated it every single minute. Not only were women, we're juniors. Junior means you're nobody. They will call you Friday night, so you got to show up on Saturday morning, and the pay was Pay is okay because I can live very frugal, But you had to buy all these crazy outfits, You had to wear stockings, matching shoes, and bags, and whole 9 yards, And New York has 4 seasons. That's also sucks because you need 4 different kind of outfit, I spent all my pay just buying clothes. So one day I started steal in the Alexander department. I got caught, and which I got caught. So after that, I would never want to steal again. I got terrified. Oh, I was terrified. But they let me off, wasn't too bad. So you'd have all these temptations, buying more stuff, people wearing what brand you wear and all that. And I decided, no, that's not what I want to do. And I don't want to wasting my time. My parents were so happy that I became an architect, And I also got my green card because architects were needed labor in America. So I said, well, maybe I dabble in film. Fortunately, maybe I was in the right time, right place. American Film Institute needed money from the government, subsidized, because, again, the principal, Jane Haig, she ran off to an ashram with a motorcycle guy. And the school was left with Robert Redford to handle for the transitional period because he was on the board. And Robert was very much into video. So he donated all these humongous video deck, 3/4 inch, So they are in transition and moved from Doheny to Weston. Since they need a capital investment, they need a government support, and Robert Redford was buddy-buddy with the government and National Endowment for the Arts. And they somehow secured promise. One condition, You got to diversify. You have no women. You have no people of color. It seems like your school is like a lily white male conservatory. So they went out. And I got a leaflet somewhere in my office, Third World Newsreel, which I, at the time already started a company, Third World Newsreel, making documentary films. I said, hey, that's pretty good. So I submit my application. Whang, I got a full scholarship. And AFI, American Film Institute, got a full support from National Endowment for the Arts. So they should thank me. And years later, my daughter decided to go to AFI. Of course, people submit the application, in January, February, for September. She decides to go to AFI. Hello, in May or June. School starts in September. So I took her to California. We visited, San Francisco Art Institute, went to the Stanford University. She said, oh, how am I going to study Stanford? It's squeaky clean. How am I going to make a documentary film? But we got to AFI campus and it was much more diversified. Yeah, there are women, there are a lot of Asians, African Americans, Latino, even Mexicans go there. Can you believe it? In Hollywood. So she loved it. So I used my little tricks. I went back door. Jean Furstenberger, hello, do you remember me? I graduated from here. She said, oh, of course. Very Hollywood. She's from very, well-connected Hollywood. I said, my daughter is interested in coming here. Oh, it's late. It's completely late for application. But we will give her an interview. So my daughter was very lucky, got an interview. At the end of August, some people dropped out. So I flew with her to Los Angeles and she got in. After one semester, she calls me, I hate this place, I hate it. I said, no way. I put you in, you finish, period. And she finished as DP, but then her director, the program has a lot of problems. If the writers don't have a screenplay, director has nothing to do. The producer don't have anything to do. If you're a cinematographer, you just sit, you ask, and the worst part is the editor. So the director's from Iran, hated America. I don't know why he came to America. And he writes all these things very anti-America. So it doesn't pass. And my daughter says, no, I'm not going to wait for the director to finish, his screenplay. So she switched to directing. The year she graduated, they had the National Guards there because this crazy guy is going to blow up going to drop some, bombs during the graduation. And they had all these celebrities there, So they had LA police and National Guards there. So this is America. So I came back to the United States. I came back. I hated Hollywood. Everything is baby pink, baby blue, baby yellow. Everybody's so insecure. At that time, New York was exuberant. Spike Lee was doing, independent film. Martin Scorsese, Susan Seidelman, and Jim Jarmusch. I said, where are the Asians? There's no Asian here. Duh. And of course, no Latinos, except Lourdes Portillo in San Francisco was one of the early Latino women doing films about Latin America and Mexico in particular. So yeah, this is interesting. So I'm going to start to do Asian American films. So that's how I started. And I became the first Asian American in this country making movies. So I'm a legend. But I will never write an autobiography because I don't believe in autobiography. It's just like selective memories,
Mm-hmm. What kind of work are you doing now?
I am doing all kinds of stuff. I saw a little bit renowned story in the United States. So I started to go out the United States, China, Africa, Latin America is a big problem because I don't speak Spanish. So I just finished a film. I don't know the title yet. It's about Chinese in Africa. So I thought it would really catchy. It's called Chinks in Black Land. What do you think? Too derogatory? I finished this feature length. I went to Ghana and did the Chinese are racist as hell. And one guy, so at Ghana, Ghanaians, they're so lazy. Good reason. The weather is always beautiful. They never have cold weather, so they won't freeze to death. They sit under the tree and papaya just fall right into their mouth, so they will never starve. That's what they're talking about. Since I've been here, I've become very lazy. But the Chinese are arrogant. That's what China called themselves 中国, the middle kingdom, as if they know all. These crazy guys, crazy people, moved to Ghana in the 50s, still do not speak English. They talk to the workers all in Chinese. In the restaurants, all the signs in Chinese. I'm talking about way back. Today, Chinese government or private enterprise go to Ghana because Ghana is one of the most stable country. They don't have it. They had a civil war, but that was a long time ago. And Nkrumah was really a visionary and also very religious. The country is extremely religious. Used to be British colony. And today, Chinese were there building the, malaria hospital, building the national and the theater, and all the construction sites were all in Chinese. I said, how do you communicate with natives? Hand language. They refuse to speak. And it's just very arrogant, And obviously, they separate eating. The Ghanaian worker and Chinese worker, they eat separately. At the beginning, I thought there was discrimination, but it turns out to be it is not. Chinese cannot eat local food. The local people cannot eat Chinese food, and that's understandable, But if a white person goes there, take a picture, you see black people eating here, Chinese people, that's a discrimination. They come to the conclusion right away, So this film is the first film, one of the first, no. I wouldn't say first film. I took all the white people out. Yeah, because it's about time. I think that the conversation should be between the Africans and Chinese. I don't want any scholars, especially scholars in Africana study. They're all white because Africa was colonized by England, Germany, Portugal, France, And Africana study is very inclusive in the discipline. They don't hire Africans. None. And all the books that were out, and they were all from get-go, page 1 to last page is anti-China. China is becoming a neo-colony, neo-colonialism. Only want the resources from Africa. Come on, give me a break, And China's been cultivating African nations since 1950 because China became communist country 1949. It was Cold War. China was the enemy of the United States, plus Russia. And at that time, the United Nations, the Security Council seats was occupied by Taiwan, which is a puppet regime of the United States. China and Africa have how many countries? 53 countries. Your former president, vice president candidate thought Africa was one country. Sarah Palin, okay? Her screwed up, she got a loose screw in the brain. So cultivating, but majority at that time of African nations, either they're independent, because independence took place all around, late 50s. Ghana was in 1957, then little Angola, then Mozambique, Guinea-Bissau, et cetera, et cetera. And they were called third world. They were not first world, which is Europe and America. America is the first world, Europe is the second world, Europe plus Japan, and they call them the third world. Third world is almost like a political term, That's why I named my company Third World Newsreel. I ally with it's a non-aligned movement. We don't ally with the imperialists, the capitalists, nor align with the communist bloc, But they were a very powerful voice. So 1953, 54, there was a major conference took place in Malaysia called Bandung Conference. All the majority African nation and Asian nation got together, had this conversation about non-alignment. China was not allowed to go because China was a communist country. But however, like Philippines, South Korea, Thailand were very close to America, And Nehru is the only person had a foresight. So we must invite the premier of China, Zhou Enlai. So Zhou Enlai went to Bandung. At that time, they wrote a resolution, joint resolution. One of the top joint resolutions, no interference of domestic politics. Nobody able to. And this is what American young people do not understand. Yes, Sudan, there was massacre, but China didn't want to interfere. Same thing, China is having a hard time interfere North and South Korea because that's their domestic issue. America loves poking that, arms in everybody's nation. So is the French, Germans, British. So it's very different kind of international geopolitics. So I'm doing this to give a complete different reason and rationale about that collaboration. It didn't happen yesterday. It happened many years ago. China benefited from being allied with Africa. Africa benefited from being with China in terms, the technology. And China built the first railroad, Tanzania Railroad, which really opened the commerce and, and shipping and people able to travel, etc. Both places have a negative and positive issue, but I do not want to continue perpetuate this mythology of this, one-sided point of view.
Right. But now you told me you're working on.
Stop the camera.
Okay.
Speed.
So let's get back to the movies that you're making now. Like you're just mentioning that one there, but let's. You said you were making you're working on 7 different films.
Yeah.
Right?
Sometimes my brain is not working. Okay. Chinks in the Darkland. That's a working title. Originally, it's called South to South. Very academic. Ugh. And I'm finishing a film about Rodney King, 20 years after Los Angeles riots. That's more about African American community and the Koreans, because I also speak Korean. When I'm in Korea, I'm a Korean. Don't forget. When I'm in Japan, I'm Japanese. When I'm in Russia, I'm Russian. A migrant worker in Beijing, because Beijing, in order to boost their ego to build the Olympic in 2008, they imported all the migrant workers from all the part of the country and built this mega city. It's getting uglier and uglier, uglier. Pollution level is terrible. And they're being treated like a third-class citizen, living like in a ghetto, And I'm making a film, almost finished shooting, about this eclectic, interesting American family which composed white, among the white, Jews and WASP, African American, Asian, who is half Chinese, half Cuban, and then the gay lovers and lesbians. So I figured it's great time for, same-sex marriage, I'm going to come out with this movie just like united everyone, And that's what I'm almost looking for, a great editor who has sick humors to edit, because you got to be really dark sense of humor. It's not like a la-di-da, Making a film about a high school kid goes to this bougie Massachusetts private school. See, when I came here, I was the only few foreign students here. But then the Asians come in as college student or graduate student. Now they got money, so the easy bits are coming. Like they come in like in the high school level and stay in this boarding school. Why Massachusetts? Because Harvard and MIT there. So how screwed up the Chinese parents are. As if they're really going to get there. That is going to take me 3 years, because I had to follow this kid, until his graduation. He's all dyed yellow hair, I'm finishing a film, almost finished, about this incredible woman doctor in Seoul, Korea, who is a pediatrician. And in Korea, no abortions against the law. So that's why you in New York City, you see all these Korean babies Upper West Side or adopted by Jews. And they have the largest export orphan, and they do not accept mental illness. So she is the only doctor deals with the children with the mental illness. Not only mental, also physical illness. I'm doing a portrait. Give a Korean woman some kind of presence, because they've been treated like, they're like a rag, like a Japan. China is a little better, because Mao says, oh, women occupy the half of the sky. Duh. Then I'm working on, how many are there? Migrant worker, Chinese in Africa, and Rodney King, and the high school, Korean doctor. See, sometimes I don't even remember. What am I working on? There's 2 more. I will remember. I'll go back, come back. Can you believe it?
When you told me you're not a member of a union or a guild, right?
No, I'm a member anyway. I don't even vote.
Mm-hmm. Why don't you talk a little bit about your first job in the business? You kind of skipped over that when you were working with Tom Hayden and those guys, and just do
On
a
my first job at the
first job.
newsreel,
Yep.
it was Julia Wright came in. Julia Wright is Richard Wright's daughter. You know who's Richard Wright? Who wrote The Black Boy? Yeah. He was a member of the Communist Party, got booed out from the United States. He went to Paris, okay? Like a Langston Hughes, like all these great writers, okay? Julia Wright is Ellen Wright's daughter. She lived in Nigeria with her husband. They shot a film about Biafra, Nigeria, between Gowon and all these frictions. They came to New York, dumped the footage on my lap, thinking, because I'm a minority, I can handle this topic. Hello, Nigerians do speak English, but they also speak Igbo, And that was my first job, editing. And it was blowing my mind. It was so complicated. So I realized, God, this film business, you have to do research. I don't even know what Nigeria was, And you had to do some research and put together. And we came out with the most didactic title, Nigeria 1. How do you like that? So I edited that film at Newsreel. And then the Attica Rebellion happened, and Newsreel was all white, was funded by trust fund, babies. They sent me and Susan Robeson, Paul Robeson's granddaughter. See, I got my, the connection quite good. Richard Wright's daughter and Paul Robeson's daughter, they are like a hero of the United States, When we were little in China, we used to sing Old Man River in Chinese because Paul Robeson spoke, I think, 9 languages. Yeah. If you ever listen to his old recording, he was famous as Othello and etc. So we went to Attica, and the National Guards were there, and we were so young. She was in high school, Hunter High School. We got there, hi, we're here making a movie. And I was carrying this humongous camera, Ari BL, I would look like a Mickey Mouse, And those days was amazing. Can we talk to the warden? Of course. They looked at us. And Elaine, what's her name? I remember. Elaine also came with us. She was a driver. And 3 women. And we got to this yard, in the prison yard. And it was occupied by all these prisoners demanding, better treatment, et cetera, et cetera. So we interviewed all these prisoners. Then we left. We left, and then subsequently, the Rockefeller ordered National Guards to shoot them down. And ABC in Buffalo took the picture in 16 millimeter, but ABC refused to broadcast. Larry Bowler was a camera person, African-American, so pissed off, and he phoned the newsreel, and he heard that we were just making a film about Attica. And he donated footage. So I finished that first film called Teach Your Children with Sue Robeson. And it was good, it was really, really primitive. We did a little animation, put the Rockefeller on a scale with the, prisoners, and it was very primitive. But now this particular film is lost the original prints. There are only 2 prints left in the Pacific Archive. And I tried to get the print. They won't give it to me because we didn't have credits on the name. At the time, Newsreel's credit was machine gun, But then they did a little research. Finally, they gave me a digibeta. So we call orphan films, And so I got that back. So that's how I started. And of course, Newsreel fell apart when the student movement fell apart, the SNCC and the SDS, all went to different direction. So one day I was in office, I inherited this goddamn organization. I'm not going to call Newsreel, I'm going to change it to Third World Newsreel. So I became a boss, very young. And I had all these films left, from Cuba, from Vietnam, from China, or from socialist country. I said, why don't I distribute films? The films that no one wanted to distribute. So became very well known. Films from Angola came, film from, in Africa, I met Osman Simbin, it was incredible. They gave me the film free, because they wanted the film being shown rather than they just sitting in a closet. And I was very generous, even giving them the residuals. And I said, well, I need to publicize these films. How should I do it? At that time, every single corner you see McDonald's. So I wrote to McDonald Corporation in Oak Brook, McDonald, McDonald Road. And I asked for corporate contribution because I wanted design catalogs. And a catalog with the Spanish, catalog with the English, catalog for African American, catalog for Asians, catalog for women. They bought it. So I got the money. So I designed the catalog, and it's really nice looking. I hope that they still have a copy. I don't collect everything. And then I realized you need a mailing list. So you had to purchase mailing list, right? So we were really guerrilla style, And of course, African Americans, I had a very good connection with the Panthers and Young Lords, and women. We had a Women's Alliance, so I used their mailing list and started mailing this catalog out. And the film was doing very well, and people began to get paid $75 a week, working as a collective. And I stayed there for 10 years, made about 12 films at the World Newsreel. My first grant was to New York State Council on Arts. I asked for $10,000 to make 4 movies. Can you believe it? And we got that $10,000. We finished 3 movies, and one of them, which was the first Asian American film, it was called From Spike to Spindles. And then The Dream is What You Wake Up, and another one is about daycare center in New York City. The 4th one about American Indian never finished because, I don't know, the collaboration fell apart. It was not my project. So, by the time I went to American Film Institute, I had okay amount of work. I was able to do camera work, I know how to record sound, and I learned from WBAI, and I hate editing because my ants in my pants. I can sit still. Like even now, I can sit still. So I'm married to an editor, so convenient, But then he started competing with me. He edited several of my films, and that's when I made a Mississippi Triangle. When I got a huge grant from National Endowment for the Humanity. At that time, it was a big grant, $120,000. That's a lot of money. But then also I got in this trouble to make it Who Killed Vincent Chin. It started with a 5-minute film, ended up with 5 years, because the civil rights trial went on and on and on, and this asshole was didn't go to jail, only $3,000 fine. Justice system is so crooked because depends on where you take. Finally I realized, civil rights trial, you gotta have a loud mouth, and these Chinese are so afraid of challenging the status quo of the system. So they stopped the demonstrate, and when they changed the venue to Cincinnati, it's a whitey town, and they didn't protest, and all the jury members were white. Of course, the white guy got acquitted. So when you start to see this transparency, you start to wonder, where are the justice? Sometimes it's appalling, really appalling. And these bankers still got away, corrupted this country, put all these people on unemployment, and outsourcing all the, and got all this tax break from the Reagan administration, all to China, Bangladesh, and look at what happened, Bangladesh, the goddamn factory fell down, making, the American jeans or whatever. So it's really justice, and you don't see it. So my commitment in terms of filmmaking is try to show the unseen part. Try to talk about the stories nobody dare to touch, So most of my stories are along that path,
So when did you first realize that this is what you wanted to do in your career?
When I saw the movie Inside North Vietnam, and I thought it's so powerful, but it didn't really hit me. And I was at Columbia University, and there's a film school. These guys were sound, camera, action, roll. I was, this is powerful. So I tapped this one guy, director, Hart Perry, his name is. I said, can I just watch it? And he looked at me, go take a course. And later on, he became the DP for Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth. I saw his name, I said, But because the rejection, it made me much more stronger. And I realized that architecture really helped me in terms of certain confidence in dealing with the technology, science, complicated thinking, And of course, it's very much teamwork. You had to work with the engineer, you had to work with the landscape designer, you had to work with the, civil engineers, and et cetera, urban politics, et cetera. So film is also pretty collaborative. But one thing I knew very well as women, I have to overcome the technology. I've seen so many situations. Women do not know about camera, sound. These guys is, bitch, don't know anything, And there was Chinese director who was making a film in China. I was in the United States. I get email from Beijing. People work on a crew cursing her that she didn't know between optical printer and optical track and magnetic track. Use cam, It's just awful. So when I teach my young women, however, I was too gung-ho, too feminist. I carry such a heavy camera. I'm talking BL, and with the belts that even fit my ass. I have to walk around like a bullet, and heavy case. Years later, I screw my back. Now I'm paying for. So nowadays, I have assistants, either that girls like her size, got some muscles, I hire the guys. No more this, female chauvinism anymore. However, cinematography is difficult. And I was trained as artist and architecture, so I learned lighting. Lighting is not this artificial lighting. We have to learn, all kinds of lighting. We not only learn, film is eliminating shadow. Architecture is how the shadow gets created, okay? Film is you're looking in the positive space. Architecture is you're looking in the negative space between the buildings, all right? It's very opposite, And architecture also gave me a tremendous training in terms of color palette, what are the color, goes together. And daring, because these assholes come to our jury. They were just coming with the X-Acto knife. After hours drawing, they were just cutting, to get their ego, get their rocks up. So it's like made me very strong. The technology is very, very important because if you don't know what you're doing, forget it, okay? You get laughed at. And directing is you gotta have something to say. You gotta have the passion and you have to have the patience. I choose documentary instead of a narrative film. Had a lot to do, I don't have patience. On top of that, they just so few Asian American who were trained as a screenwriter. They were playwrights. Playwright and screenwriter is complete opposite direction. So plays are very difficult to translate into visual language because it's much more projective, two-dimensional. Did you see Doubt? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you see the play when Tony, the movie sucked, it sucks. Sorry, Shane Lee. His son was my son's friend. It's very difficult, very, it's, that's what Tennessee Williams' Streetcar Named Desire still is so hot as a play. But every version, even with the Marlon Brando, it's like, superficial. You don't see these flavors. So I couldn't find a screenwriter, so I found a playwright and adopted her film for the AFI. You can't find an elderly actress because there's no role for them. They all quit. It was really sad when I started. People just discouraged, and documentary was much easy because the Asian faces come with a dozen. Everywhere you see Asians, They got so much story, nobody willing to talk about their stories. So, I felt like I can really explore that field. So that's what became much more, focus. But then I started beginning to see there's a lot of contradictions among the Asians in relationship to other minorities. So I began to expand my scope to dealing with the, among the minority issues. So because I'm a minority, I'm always being minority. I was minority in China, I was minority in Korea, I was minority in America, Go ahead. So what's the next question? I forgot.
So you were just talking about this, but we all know that film and television is a collaborative business. Can you talk about any colleagues that were particularly rewarding to work with as collaborators?
I think in the early period, I worked very well with Larry Bola, who was a cameraman. He was an ABC guy. But his girlfriend got jealous. That's what bitching about women, got jealous. And, it's typical, divide and conquer or whatever. Then I started working with the women. And because I had a little more longer track records, these women would just graduate from college or film school. And they all, it was my mission. I want to train women and women of color in production, So I had a workshop funded by NEA, New York State Council on Arts. But then these women became competitive and they want to share credits, Can we be co-directors? I said, sure, I'm just like, fine. Then it became no longer co-director because by then the film is we no longer only can project film, we can transfer video. During the transfer, they change the credit, then they get caught, And Renee Tajima is one of the typical example. I mean, I gave her, she stood with me for 5 years on Who Killed Vincent Chin. Opening credits, a film by Christine Choy and Renee Tajima. At the end, she was assistant producer and I was a director. Many years later, we shared the profit, everything went fine. Then she applied a grant to ITVS, and I happened to be a reader. And I looked at her resume, my name was completely cut out. So I called her up. She said, oh, it's like must be my intern made a mistake. Fine, I acknowledge. And I had a baby, so she gave me a bottle of champagne, which I didn't know, I stuck in the freezer, one day blew up, Then I knew something was wrong, a champagne blew up. Then I got her another application. She applied somewhere else. And I was a reader again, those anonymous reader. So by this time, I started became a little upset. I had my lawyer call her. She said, oh, it's a mistake again. My lawyer says, okay, we don't want to go to court. You're losing your entire rights. So I had to yank the film back. That was very disappointing, okay? And 2 times, three times, both by Asian women. Can you dig this, One is a woman who was my bookkeeper from Philippines, and she put her sick husband, her daughter on the company's medical insurance. And I was trying to hiring this African-American woman, Patricia. Somehow she was not able to get the health insurance. She got a sickle cell or AIDS, you became like suspicious. Since I was employed by NYU, I don't need a company insurance. So I went to the insurance company. And the guy says, you already filled up your quota. I said, what? I came into office, I poured the Marina Gonzalez drawer, I threw everything on the floor, I said, get the out of here. So she left. Next thing, she was handling all the sponsorship. She sent to everybody, Christine Choy went bankrupt. Come here to get all your grant money as soon as possible. Can you believe this? And at that time, I was in Japan. And I got in the elevator, and there was 2 women in the elevator. Did you hear Christine Choy went bankrupt? And I was in the elevator. Rumor traveled. I was so mad. Because I was still waiting for the grant coming, and there was, after she embezzled the money, I had a cash flow problem, big time. I was about, big time, at that time it was about 50,000. That's a lot of money, And luckily, I had some friends. I said, okay, here's the paper. I'm waiting for the grants coming in. Can you, advance me 50,000? I closed the office. I moved everything because I cannot pay the rent. Everything moved back to my apartment. I was really devastated. But, well, I was young, hot-headed, Now I start to see complete different situation. I put myself in their shoes. You see this woman, I already had children, went to Ivy League school, gave up architecture, going to filmmaking, and quite, all right doing it. If I was just coming to this business, I feel a little jealous. Because time goes by quick. If you don't have a kids in the 20s, forget it. If you want to major this thing, forget it. You don't have time, You just don't, because you had to go on location, you had to travel, and women's the body, just you don't have a limitation in terms of when you have children. And all the DPs I know, No children, none. No, except Lisa Rensler. Everybody else, no. There are only 5 of them, so it's not too many. And then when I was doing the film. So it's just like I put myself in, and then I got a job as a faculty at the NYU, which pissed them more off, obviously. Who the you are, my dabbling of film school, unlike people spend all this money and the NYU graduate school, you see USC, UCLA, hello. Well, I think because I was extremely lucky, because no one was competing with me. But now, of course, right now I can get a penny. So many Asians are in filmmaking, so many women. So I put myself in a reverse situation, and yeah, I can understand that. So I'm not really angry. Now I'll collaborate with a lot of my former students, which is really advantage because I see them, how they strengthen their weaknesses. Some of them very good at camera, some of them very good at sound, some of them very good at editing. And of course, while they were my student, I cannot hide them, conflict of interest. But once they graduate, I have a pool of people. And it's the whole area I never even dreamed about, never even thought about. And I also have a young son who smoked a lot of pot, he listens to hip hop, and I learn from them too, And what's new generation? They're all ADDs. They're all bipolar, and they have zero concentration. They cannot even write down telephone number legible because they don't write. Period. That's it. So you start to see, different communication. The words changing, different kind of method of communication. I don't have a text and a capacity, but I have to get on the computer regardless. And so it's a really serious commitment if young people. You have to keep learning. You have to keep following what is out there, whether you like it or not. I don't join any goddamn social network and, all the Facebookers, Twitters, and all that crap, But other people does. So you cannot say you cannot join that, They communicate, I mean, the new communication, the system it's wide open. It's wide open. We don't know what's next. However, also there's a really close merge between media and commerce. When the only time I remember when the media and commerce was not merged when it was during the birth of experimental film, because there was no market. However, after the invention of MTV, or the MTV began to pirate ideas, stole the idea, single framing, out of focus, and stuff like switch the pen, all stole from the experimental filmmakers, So the generation keep evolving, If we don't look at the largest scope in terms of its progression and where we're going, you get stuck. And that's what's the problem with the NYU. All this goddamn tenure faculty. No one makes movies. No one. I can count with 1, 2. John K. Maker makes animation, and Alex Elliott makes experimental documentary. Sam Paula does editing, and me. That's it. Out of 200 some faculty member. Isn't it bizarre? So don't go to NYU.
What do you consider your greatest achievement?
My greatest achievement is I finally found my freedom. Why? How? Right? That's what you mean. Money cannot buy freedom is your consciousness. That finally I realized I want to be a person completely open mind. No isms, no religion. That doesn't mean I'm against the isms. People have, socialism, communism, capitalism, colonialism, or Catholic, Buddhist, Muslim. That doesn't mean I'm opposing it. But I was able to arrive to a point to able to absorb all different cultures and accept all, but not completely to understand them, but not necessarily to follow one particular path. And that was really free, extremely free. 1. 2, I live like a minimalist. I don't want anything anymore. clothing, bag, the materialistic things is no longer interest to me. Yes, you can say, once upon a time I had it. I used to drive Mercedes-Benz, okay? I had a Gucci bag and Prada dress, and la-di-da-di-da. The period went over, and it was extremely liberating. The accumulation of capitalistic consumer goods is going to bog you down. Now is a time to really learn about the world, about people, And so I do travel quite a bit, looking for great ideas for film. Now I can make a film relatively cheap, 5D camera, I know how to shoot. I don't use the lights. Too much trouble to bring lights. I just choose, daylights, only daylight. The sound is very sophisticated, and crew could be very short. And all I need is a little bit of money. And where does my money come in? I have a body of work, and I have a distributor distributes. They take what do you call? They take 7%. I take 3%. Well, yeah. They take, so I don't have that much income. However, still does come in. That's why you don't get to see my films, because it's very, very limited distribution, only for educational market. So my DVD is $495. Ugh. So I'll go around the library and scratch those DVDs so that they have to force them to buy. I'm joking. And so it's very limited, so it has long life shelf. So that income comes in. I don't go to my pocket, and it goes to my foundation. That foundation has about, I would say right now, about $60,000 accumulated. And Lee just gave me $5,000 recently. I do a little fundraising, and that's become a seed money to develop another project. So I don't have to depend on the grants, because grants are getting scarce and too many competitions. So once I have a rough cut, then I go approach for grants or distribution money or broadcast. So that's how I worked out my business plan. So I'm not that dumb, I have to think about the, income, expenses, and etc. And everybody's deferred pay. Don't work for me. Deferred pay, this is my favorite term. Partially is because they're young. I don't want to start using money. I gave them a period of time called trial period. All right, here's footage. I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to tell you the structure. See how you do it. If they start cutting like an MTV, cut the out, No, they don't have the patience. They don't know how to pace. They don't know how to absorb the material. And this is what I really need, So I say, hey, listen, the one reason I'm not paying you is because you're learning a lot of from me, It's an exchange deal. So I train them for a period of time. If they're really good at it, then I begin to pay them, So that's how I began to work, to diversify different kind of people I work with, and thinking-wise, I'm much more progressive. And did I answer your question?
Well, your greatest achievement.
Oh, my greatest achievement. I think my greatest achievement is the film I did on Who Killed Vincent Chin, because civil rights issue is always, people just automatically thinking it was black and white issue. Well, partially it was, because the southern state, people were lynched. Finally, Brown versus Board of Education, schools started to integrate, and then of course all the whites went to private school, and all the blacks got stuck in lousy public school, and the Chinese didn't know where to go, so they opened their own school. So it was always a southern issue. So when Vincent Chin issue happened in 1983, young Chinese man was beaten to death by two white auto workers from Detroit. Two auto workers, for reasons, got off scot-free with 3-year probation, $3,000 fine. And that uprode all the Asian community. People were so upset. How could there be justice? So finally, there's only one level you can go, is the civil rights. And so Vincent Chin case became the first civil rights case in the history of America. There was previous case in Mississippi, and the Bertha Lung versus Board of Education. Bertha Lung was in Mississippi Chinese. And when the the Brown versus the Board of Education and desegregated school, and she applied to the white school, got rejected because they say she had Negro blood. So her father filed a civil rights case, but he couldn't get the legal fee. And obviously, there were no civil rights lawyer exist. Same thing like Vincent Chin. They ended up hiring some stupid Japanese real estate lawyer who didn't know anything about, Of course they lost. But since the case, and I spent 5 years, and it became really influential. Suddenly, the Asian Americans realized, you can open, like a 7-Eleven and dry cleaning store, work 24/7. It doesn't really give you a position in America. You don't have voice. And the voice is you got to understand the Constitution. You got to understand legal system, because the legal system is predominated by Jewish people, because they were, they were, put in a concentration camp, etc. So it's real estate. They love property. They love, legals. So no Asians went in law school, because of the case that a lot of Asians began to, entering legal system. And now you have elected officials, which is surprising, And the ambassador to China is Chinese American. It's completely changed its landscape. However, no one want to go to entertainment law. Why? No business. They don't make any money. People making money is only Hollywood entertainment lawyers. How many Broadway shows you have seen? 1 or 2. Chinglish. What else? What else?
M. Butterfly.
Oh, that's the M. Butterfly. Very few.
Yeah. Which film were you nominated for?
Who killed Vincent Chin?
For an Academy Award?
Yeah, it was pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And it's a feature length. But there's a catch. Academy is not that kosher. I use a Yiddish word. It's not that clean. A lot of politics. First of all, there are 2,000 voting members. Almost, I would say, 2/3 are Jewish. So every year there is film about Holocaust. Doesn't matter, Meryl Streep playing Polish Holocaust wins, okay? That year, 1990, there was no film, or no, the pianist and Brody. That year have no Holocaust movie. Marcel Breuil, who did a film for Cries and Whisper, was very long film. It's about Jewish concentrations, but was 4 hours. A couple of years ago, it was ruled out because the length. Then Spielberg came in with a show out. It was 9 hours. So they changed the rule. Spielberg wins. And this year, same year with me, he did a film about the psychologist during Hitler to experiment with the twins. 4 hours long. He got it. First of all, there were only handful of voting members among the Asians, because you had to be in the guild, or there are not too many, right? There are a lot of Jewish votes. I already knew. Plus, we have no publicity. I didn't even have a poster. You got to send this videotape to all the voters. I had no idea. So I learned a great lesson. It's fine, but honestly, God, my film is much better than his film. Nobody ever sees his film. So many Academy Award the documentary, it's all rigged. So after they win the damn, little, the shapeless, the gold man, gold woman, whatever, they all disappeared. And my film is still showing after 30 years. I'm going to Toronto in beginning of June to show this film on this workshop called Anti-Stereotype or something. Hello, not bad, So I'm still came out as a winner. I don't feel bad about it. But it's just, that's the Academy. And I hope much later. And my student, Jeffrey Fletcher, was the first African-American won an Oscar for adaptation of Precious. Black. No one ever won. Toni Morrison never won. Right? Yeah. Hello. What's going on? Because the voting power is so concentrated. Hollywood used to be pretty much dominated by Italian, Eastern Europe people. They came in with the new aesthetics, the noir film noir, all that. And then was very much influenced by the French New Wave, and was pretty influenced by the others. Then the fighting was a little bit Bruce Lee. That's about it, not that much. And the African American came in, all comedy, begin with all comedy, slapstick comedy, yeah. And begin to really get into the industry. But in terms executive producer, in terms, you still come with the one hand, really, in terms of director. Women director came and leave, what's her name made Daughter But Dust.
Julie Dash.
Julie Dash. I don't know what she's doing. It's so sad. I have no idea, Ayoga Chinziro, I don't know. Monica Freeman, I don't know what happened to her. Oh yeah, she's teaching English in China, I think. And the newcomers and a lot of my graduate students, they make one film and the end. Because the financing and you need the big stars, How many times are you going to cast Beyonce? How many times are you going to cast... Oprah is not going to play anymore. Everything is about Denzel Washington. That's it. He sells. Nobody else sells. It's a market.
When you worked outside of New York, how was that experience different from working in New York City? And
I'm always daring. When I was appointed as the dean, the founding dean of a school of creative media in Hong Kong, City University, Hong Kong, I was exuberant. That was 1998, right after the Brits left Hong Kong. So it was new, fresh air. So I just took a leave, went to Hong Kong, and Hong Kong. It's still a lot of residue of colonialism. Lots of them. They still don't like the local Chinese people. Still worships, the Brits, etc. Because Brits tips better. But it was really good 3 years because Hong Kong at the time still under British system. Undergrads are 3 years, and they have 1 year after high school matriculation. One of the most Kakamini education system I've ever seen. And graduation takes place in December. Why? Because the governor of Hong Kong always was Britain, and December is time Britain's cold, so he can come to Hong Kong for warm weather. That's when the graduation. Instead of they finish all the course in May, they all have to come back in December to see this governor. How oppressive, right? And it was beginning change into 4-year system. And I started with a very small group of people, like 45 students, and now it's 500 students. And I'm very proud about that. Unfortunately, the name of the school is called Ren Ren Shaw School of Creative Media. You know who's Ren Ren Shaw? Kung Fu, Then the NYU. NYU has been very nice to me. I was a chair for 6 years, running the graduate department, and I changed the composition. I had more women, more and gay, lesbian, and more international students come in because we only accept 36 students. Very difficult selection process. Hire more people of color in terms of teaching position. That was really productive, and the white boys hated me, used to write me email, 2 pages, only first line. When are we going to get a raise? The people were really, really jealous, So that the chairship helped me in terms of understanding how the, bureaucracy work, more like a, administrative type. So that when the NYU, the president is going to open a more campus in Shanghai, I said, yeah, I'm going. So I went to Shanghai for 2 years, but I'm not going to Abu Dhabi. It's too conservative. I don't want to go there. So every we get a perk every 5 years. We get 1 year off. And last year I had a Fulbright, so I went to China to do research for Chinese in Africa. I hated every minute. So I really came back to New York, finally see the blue sky and can breathe. And China is changing so much, and with a disappointment, I must say.
do you have a favorite story from your work experience that you'd like to share?
My favorite story, when Ang Lee graduated from NYU, he could not find a job. And he has his foreigner, right? And he had to do it 1 year at the practical training. So he knocks on my door. I was the only game in town. So when he was, can I find work? Yeah, what can you do? Yeah, I said, what do you have? I said, I have this film. I need to be synced up daily. We shot film, sound and pictures, Mississippi Triangle. After 2 hours, I was back. What you been doing? I don't know how to sync it up. What? You went to graduate school, you don't know how to sync it up? Oh, the editor does. I was pissed. I said, what can you do? He said, I only know director. I said, get out of here. I'm the director. You're not director. Look at what happened now. Look at what happened. He's famous. We're famous. And the Life of Pi made like $800 billion. It's insane. So that's my favorite story. And in fact, I interviewed him, and he tells that story on camera. So wow, I was so shy. I don't even know how to pitch. And one day I walked to the Good Machine, and the guy says, what are you doing here? Then I interviewed Ted Hope. Ted says, I hear this quiet foot coming in, and the guy standing there with a head down. What are you doing here? What is your name? My name is Ang Lee. What are you doing here? If I don't make a film, I will commit suicide. Don't commit suicide right here. You have a screenplay? Yes. He gave me a screen. This is his first film, Pushing Hand. What's your budget? $7,500. You kidding me? $7,500? He said, oh, I made a mistake, $75,000. And he got a grant for writing the screenplay for $50,000 from Taiwan government, and rest of from his wife's salary. And I helped him out. He had no money. We had to cook for him. And I had to steal mats because he didn't have a green room. And the mats, those blue mat people do exercise, so the actors and actresses can lie down in between. And that's how it became, I used my car, and he made his first film. And he's been consistent, really, really consistent. And he has a wonderful, wonderful classmate that year. He was not my student, so I don't know. Neither Spike Lee, neither Jim Jarmusch. Yeah. My other favorite story is Todd Phillips, the road trip. Did you ever see that? Hangover 2. He was my student. He took no one else's class but me. He was hilarious. He made a film about this punk rocker named G.G. Allen. It's called G.G. Allen, the Murder Junkie, okay? And with the Ramones, And knowing the fact G.G. Allen is punk. I mean, extreme punk, okay? He invites G.G. Allen to NYU Student Center to perform. G.G. Allen is known, and so is his drummer. They perform naked, stark naked, okay? Same day, there was a Hawaiian night, so they had a pineapple, bananas, G.G. Allen came in naked, stuck a banana in his ass, right? And goes to the audience, take the banana out and throw it at the audience. So audience just went nuts. They started leaving. And the security guy comes in, right? And they had 2 camera shoot, okay? Caught the entire scene. It was hilarious. G.G. Allen was pissed off. And they ended up in the Lower East Side at some punk club. Then he started to do everything, imaginable. So Todd Phillips, it's a crime, And they had a little people's court, the deans, the student center boss, and me, because I was his instructor, and Todd Phillips, and his camera people, and etc. We sit down there in the people's court. So they asked me what I thought about it. I said, you don't understand. That was the best moment of any documentary film, catching a scene when the scene was unfolding, and they did not turn off the camera. It was silent. And he won. He won, and finally he making a lot of money. I was chair of a graduate film. I said, Todd, give me some money. These students need a scholarship. He said, no, I'm not going to give you any money. I said, why? I never graduated because George Stoney gave me incomplete. I feel so bad. So, all the records is in the basement, and I got all the crew there and dug up all these records. He lied to me. He graduated. So that's my favorite story, And his road trip was funny. I just thought it was funny. He makes a lot of money, lots of money. And if I ever want to do autobiography, I would say, Todd, you should do my autobiography because you are such a liar,
What lessons has your work life taught you? I think you've already answered this, but you can go ahead.
My lesson?
What lessons?
My lessons, don't ever work with the non-filmmakers because they have no idea what filmmaking is all about and all about money. That's number one lesson. Number two lesson, okay, they can contribute money as an executive producer, keeping us. Second lesson, tell the actors, shut up. Don't give me any suggestions, which is difficult to do. So you need a really good AD, good cop, and backup. I'm always backup. I'm always having a good cop. And most important thing is knowing your weakness. So if you know, I'm weak. I can't edit. I can't assist you. But I'm very good in conceptually, in terms of structure, telling the stories. I just have no patience, okay? And I know that very well. So I have to work very closely with a good editor. Nowadays, because it's very complicated, because a lot of my films are bilingual, pain in the neck, and I have to find bilingual editor. It's tough, speaking English and Chinese or Korean, Japanese. So I also think, young filmmakers should learn additional languages. Really, really important. I had the advantage. I speak 5 different Chinese dialects plus Korean and understand Japanese. That helped me a great deal, And the other lessons I think are really important is, like I've learned, don't be, one thing I must say, I made some mistakes. When I was nominated for an Oscar, I thought I was brilliant, Whoa, and phone was ringing, HBO offer you a job, people offer you a job, Lifetime offer you a job. Wow, it's great, Never. Because your next film is not going to be as good as this. Because the passion is gone. It becomes commodity. You're working for HBO. Good money. Pay. You don't own a single footage rights. I worked with Charles Bukowski. The film ended in Cannes Film Festival. The French people want to change it into black and white instead of color because they want to make America look a really, really great, like a depressed country. I couldn't change it. But anyway, I went to Cannes. I was sitting there, I couldn't do anything. I could not sell the film. Sell out. So never, ever again working for the company. I am lucky to say that, but not everybody had that opportunity. I learned from that lessons. I'm still good friend with Sheila, all the HBO people, they still come to my class lecture, but I know myself better. I'd rather struggle hard to finish film than I own the full rights. Because the rights issue is become more and more complicated with the digital field. If I don't own everything, I have no ground for any lawsuits. Zero. So that's very, very important. And I became learning that the entertainment legal aspect is also a very important component. I never really took it very seriously.
How have you balanced family and work roles, and what trade-offs or sacrifices did you make?
Family and the work, I'm terrible mother. Look at my daughter doesn't even call me mother. Hey, Chris. Yeah, I didn't know how to deal with the kids, And I got pregnant early and I had, like an instant noodle. The husband came with a kid, all white boy, named Fleeta. Oh, funny, his name is Fleeta, Fleeta. The other day I ran into a Kathleen Kleber. She said, your son's name is Fleeta? I only know another Fleeta. I said, of course, Fleeta Drumgo. Cell-mate with a George Jackson. She's like, you're right, He's all white. Can you imagine? I was going through my identity crisis. I had this white boy. Everybody thought I was a babysitter, right? And he was tantrum all the time. So shut up, and slapping around. Then I had my daughter born because I didn't have understanding of a child. So my crazy idea is if I have a baby, I understand the other baby. No, it doesn't work. Don't ever take that advice. My daughter cries all the time because the brother always beats her up. And she just scream, cry. Oh, drove me nuts, those 2 kids. And my husband didn't make any money. He started driving a cab every night, comes back, stack of quarters. And I had to work. Somebody had to put food on the table. And so that's when I learned, hey, if I get a gig, like a teaching, but as a teaching, you need a track records. You can't go to NYU Film School unless you taught somewhere else. It's got nothing to do. A lot of great filmmakers, but they're lousy teacher, okay? A lot of, good teachers, but not necessarily good filmmakers. They don't marry together, very rarely. So I got an offer from University of Buffalo. Can you believe it? Near Niagara Falls. And I flew there with the People's Airplane once a week. I taught all day, slept overnight, came back next day, and did pretty well. And then I got a gig at Cornell University teaching Asian American studies because a lot of the Asians, yellow power, warm Asian American, there was no such course. So I had to design it, finding all different material, reading, and I made some films. So that was very helpful. Taught there. Then I got a gig in Yale, I drove, and my car was so old, that after class, student have to push my car before it starts, And too far, Yale. Town is ridiculous. It's lily white inside, outside is all surrounded by, the people, African Americans on welfare. It's ridiculous concept. And subsequently, NYU had an opening. And again, I got a leaflet, in the mail. And so I sent in my, information, etc. So here we go. Goes to interview. All this faculty member, I think along one woman, all guys. So I walked my sunglasses, my shorts, a cigarette dangling in my mouth, walking. I wasn't even thinking about jobs. So, we like your film, Why you want to be in NYU? I said, why? Because I live right down the block. Where? I said, come on, Bowery. Oh, it's my phone. Shoot. Sorry. I said, Bowery. There's a Bowery. I said, yeah, there's only 3 famous streets in New York City. Fifth Avenue with the Bergdorf Goodman and Tiffany, all right? Broadway, everybody. The Bridget Turner people all come to Broadway to see plays. Then the Bowery, the winos, homeless people, and I live in Bowery. They looked at me to see if I was a little crazy. Yeah. So that's what they thought I was going to talk about teaching philosophy, right? And they said, do you have any question for us? Oh, yeah. How much are you guys going to pay me? Obviously, I haven't looked for a job for a long time. That's called negotiation. So they hired me as a probationer. And my first class was really, really good because we can smoke cigarettes, I had some work, and I was very eclectic. I like interesting films, like Wim Wenders' early film, really, really early film. And some experimental film, like a Castro Street, I have little collections of these films. And NYU was not interesting, this kind of experimental stuff, at the time, very narrative-driven. So I showed these films, and they loved it, And I have some famous students, like a Bianca Jagger. She was funny. She comes in. I said, everybody introduce yourself. Oh, my name is Bianca Jagger. I said, what do you do? I'm an actress. The whole class said, what? Everybody laughed. So she was my student. She dropped out. Todd Phillips and all these people. And the Vanessa Redgrave's son was there, and Placido Domingo's son was there. It was like a lot of famous people. Oh, Chastity, Cher's daughter was there. She's Chase. She made a funny lesbian film, and the Israeli the teacher comes over. Christine, can you come over to take a look at this film? It's disgusting. It's disgusting. But I don't know what to say. What's wrong? So she played, and it was a bunch of students. It's like a requirement, sight and sound film. At the time we shoot films, black and white. It starts with a bed with 4 posts. And this white woman's lying down. And this black woman comes in with a whip and whips her. Cha, cha. And I started to laugh. Then this chink, the Chinese girl, comes in with the chains, right? They all 3 of them start to giggle and whipping each other at the end of the film. I applaud it. It's not bad, not bad. It's very original, And next day, and the National Inquiry says, NYU student made a pornography. Gossip. But then she left, she couldn't take it anymore. And it was really, I was the first non-white faculty ever. 1990. Isn't it disgusting? First one. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm always the first. But this year they give me awards because I've been there for umpteen years. Because I was there for so long, I was the last one to receive an award. Pisses me off, The people shorter ones, 3 years they go there, 5 years they go there, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, then 23 years, then 25 years. I was the only one at the end.
What are your goals for the future?
Future, looking for a home. I'm a homeless. I have a no home, no identification with the motherland. Land, period. I don't like to ski. I don't like countryside. I don't like suburbs. I don't like Bronx. I don't like Brooklyn. I don't like Queens. I don't even like Tribeca. I'm a very picky where I live. I don't like bugs, so I can live in the woods. I like seafood, but tsunamis, and I don't like coal mines, just dust. So I'm looking for a home somewhere in the world. Maybe Fiji Island, maybe like Gauguin, go to Tahiti, maybe go to Cuba. I like Cuba, which is completely non-materialistic. But then I have to learn Spanish. I'm too old to learn another language. And it was funny when I was in Cuba. And the other day I saw New York Times, there was funniest thing. Asad Shakur was the FBI made the announcement. This is one of the most wanted fugitive terrorists in the United States, $2 million award, blah, blah, blah. So I went to Cuba. I saw Assad. I went to hang out in the coffee shop. Yeah, she's fine. Yeah. Then they're going to bust me. The FBI is going to come after me. How come you didn't and they report to us? I'm not patriotic. No.
What advice would you give to young aspiring women entering the industry?
I already did. Passion, technology, have the kid for early, otherwise don't think about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are very, very practical stuff, right? And then I think you really should have some idea what you want to do. Film is very glamorous. And if you make a documentary, like my hardcore documentary, murder cases and racism and sexism, you think you don't have a market. But the best thing is you got to have a sense of humor. I got great sense of humor. So that's what even my serious, the murder case film, it's a musical. It's based on Motown. I'm in Detroit. Come on. But I can't afford Motown singers, Diana Ross, Supremes, forget it. So I got this cop. They're doing moonlighting. So they sing Motown song in the birthday parties, it's great. And they come in, they do the whole number, So I filmed them, and I only have to pay sync rights, because they are not real performer. Motown, give me help. They say you still have to pay a lot of money. So from back door, I was able to give a tape to Suzanne DePass, who was very gorgeous, And she looked at the tape, at that time was VHS, she liked it. And she gave me very reasonable sync rights, So I was able to use those Motown music, So that was interesting. And also another interesting part is I needed the money because the trial was going on, so I applied to Corporation for Public Broadcast, and they liked my trailer. By then I already interviewed Lily Chin, the dead guy's mother, and some cops, some witness in Detroit with $1,000 somebody donated. And I applied, and these assholes, they said, we have 3 questions for you. Number 1, you are not a journalist. You're an architect. You're a filmmaker. How can you be doing this hardcore murder case? Can you believe it? Yeah, I don't have a journalistic degree. So, and second question, who are the constituencies? Who cares that this happened in Detroit? Who will be your viewers? Yeah, I don't know how to answer. So I went to Detroit. I went to local PBS station, and spoke to the general manager. I said, I watched a lot of broadcasts of this case, but it's like a snips of it, like a short, just like a CNN stuff. No one ever did a thorough investigation of the case, and I'm willing to do it. He said, right on. And I said, by the way, do you have any journalists on staff? He said, yeah, Juanita Anderson was big black mama. Yeah. She's like, 6 feet tall, big. And here I am. So Juanita and me got along. So Juanita became the executive producer. And Bob Larson was the station manager and secured the constituency, Greater Detroit and Canada, because they also receive Signal Canada. So 2 things. Bingo. I went back to CPB. Great. You did a great job. Blah, blah, blah. But we still have a question. How can you be objective since you're Asian? I said, are you going to give me some money I can do plastic surgery? They think I'm nuts, I said, I can dye my hair blonde, change my name to Mary Smith. No way. All right, we're going to attach you a white story editor along with this project. Irv Dresner. Irv Dresner is a big-time TV reporter from WGBH. GBH is big time, Harvard graduate. Irv comes to New York. We meet, And he said, I said, can I see your film? So he shows me film. He is show and tell. It's like a slideshow. He goes to China. Because he went to China once, so they think, CPB think he already know the Chinese. Come on, China and Chinese America is a whole different species, just like African American in Africa, And so I saw his film. He said, China is going to capitalist role. Next cut, American Express. No imagination. And then he says to me, I don't like music in documentary film because it's very manipulative emotionally. I said, you. So I'm making it in Detroit, but I need the money. I said, oh, okay, I just go along with you. So we went to Detroit to shoot. We got 50% advance from CPB, which is nice, $50,000, $60,000. So we were able to rent an apartment, stay there for months, take time to shoot and go into the factory, auto factory, interview the killers, and all that quiet. They jog around, interview the lawyer, not the killer. Killer didn't give me permission to the end of the trial. Came back with all the footage. There was one scene. The workers, they're going to work really early, 6 o'clock. So by 11 o'clock, it's their lunch hour. And lunch hour, and they have either mud wrestling or jelly wrestling, some kind of sports games, right? They're working class people, in a bar, hamburger meat like that, So that particular day, they had mud wrestling, 2 women with the bikini. But nonetheless, it's still American sports. So they have to sing American anthem, right? So they were singing or drunk with a beer. It was a hilarious scene, He went nuts. He and Irv Dresner went nuts. You are looking down the blue-collar worker, especially white blue-collar. I mean, goddamn, you went to the Harvard. You never even stepped into the blue-collar. What the are you talking about? He went nuts. You would never do that to the Asian community. I said, that is not true. I said, that is not true. So I shot a scene where the old man playing mahjong. It's gambling. I mean, real gambling. When you gamble, they don't allow you to shoot. Okay? Because it's Vincent Chen, they didn't know what I was doing, yapping. They forgot it. They had money stashed on the table, right? Real money, So I filmed it. I said, this is no, in my community. You never review that, gambling, illegal gambling, right? Says, that's nothing. The 2 is like compared between apple and apple and orange. Oh my God, I was furious. I really want to punch them out. I thought about it. Do I really need the CCP money and eat this until the end of the film? No. So next day, I went to the editing room. I changed the lock. He couldn't come in. We were inside. He was puzzling. Call, no one answered. And I tell CPB, I cannot work with this guy. Sure enough, money cut off. And I had to raise money from different foundation, small foundation, $1,000 here, $2,000. Nobody got paid by then, except the editor, Holly Fisher. She got paid. And we did a fundraising, a pub building, and it was a struggle to finish. And it went to Sundance, and it went to Tokyo. It went nominated for an Oscar. When they heard CPB, when they heard I got nominated as the Oscar, they wrote me a letter, official letter. Please do mention that the Corporation for Public Broadcaster initially support your project, and in the press conference, I have to mention their name. I was like, hell no. So I stuck a letter and went outside, bought a dot. Every morning I would walk in the office, I just dotted. Finally, CPB fell apart anyway, you know. The right wing was so vicious. Anyway, that's my story with the Corporation for Public Broadcast. I don't think they liked me very much anyway. I'm not going to apply money to them anyway. So that was very memorable. You make a film about racism, and the process of making the film became also a racist process. It's amazing. Not only racism, sexism. Oh, you are not tough enough to do it. Hardcore murder case. Duh. Yeah. Are we done?
Yes.
Good. I'm tired.
I'm sure you're tired.
Am I going to pay?
So that's all the questions?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
sit
but-
there for a second.
But also,
Done.
you said you have pictures to show us, though, right?
Oh, yeah. Where's my bag?
Oh, the back is here.
I don't even know. I was drunk to pick this picture last night. I was drinking vodka. Too tired. Tonight I have a party too. Yeah. Some guys leaving for China.
You should know about that. Waiting
Okay, I'm
to.
rolling.
Okay, that's me. At that time, my name is Choy Minghui. I was a communist youth, so that's why we wear the little red tie. And that's a fence in my neighborhood. I was about 8 or 9 years old. I don't remember. That's one.
All right, keep it up. Keep it up. I have to go zoom in and get that picture.
Am I shaking?
Just hold it tight.
I made a film called In the Name of the Emperor about rape of Nanjing. And the experts in rape of Nanjing, all these old professors from NYU, and they all have Parkinson's disease. So they were on the stage, they were shaking. I said, wow, I want to film this conference. And the title it, Let's Do the Shake.
You can do another one.
Okay, next.
Next one, I'm going to take out from plastic. This is my parents. Isn't she beautiful? My mother's from Vladivostok. My father's Korean. They got married in China. And then my father went underground, disappeared. My mother got pregnant with my sister. And a couple years later, she got pregnant with me. Then she got pregnant again. She had an abortion because she can't trust my father. She said it's too hard to raise 2 children without a man. And he died. He died, what year? 74, 75 in Korea. And I became a citizen. I immigrated my mother. She loves America. She was able to work and make some money. Oh, this is my mother when she was young in Vladivostok. That's my grandmother, Maria. That's my grandfather, Nikolai. Nikolai was orphan, so he was adopted to Maria's house when she was born. He waited for her for 16 years and marries her. She had 9 children. Every one of them died. She had no idea how to heal the children when they get sick. She catches old mice and take the fetus out and feed the children. My mother was the only one alive because by then the Tsar was, interested in Western medicine. So she was the only one lived. And Nikolai subsequently left Vladivostok, went to Shanghai. And she followed 9 years later with my mother. And so they grew up my mother grew up in Shanghai.
Okay, hold it still for a second. I was shaking. I just want a still one. Next one.
I got this. This is interesting. Me with a gigantic camera. That's what I'm talking about. Ari BL. Huge. Mickey Mouse. This is North Korea. I went to North Korea, made a film, not under the young Kim, Kim Jong-il, and about the separation of the North and South. The family is separated since 1953 after Korea War. So the communists let me in because, you know, I got a clean record because I grew up in Shanghai. So I was able to get in. Not bad. And was financed by National Endowment for the Humanities. American government sent me to North Korea. We came back, they said, what are you doing there? The FBI. I said, well, your government sent me there. They're speechless. Don't you think it's fun? Let me see, what else? Oh, I forgot to tell you. This is when I had Afro. And it was the opening night of Who Killed Vincent Chin and Museum Modern Art. New director, new film. And I was so thrilled. And the photographer happened to be Chester Higgins, and one of the really well-known African-American photographer. So I look really good. He knows how to take pictures for Asian face. That's Larry Cardish, big boss of MoMA. That made me really, really happy. That was more important than anything else because all my friends live in New York, right? This is my buddy friend, Ang Lee, at my house. When I interviewed him, and my doorman doesn't even know who Ang Lee was. And now, of course.
Was that before?
Before he got an Oscar? Yeah.
Before,
Yeah.
Oh, he made many great movies before Life of Pi.
Oh, yeah. A lot of set. Oh, this is good. The old Mayor Koch, do you remember? He's a closet gay. They made a film about him right before he died. And he gave me an award. You know, he gave me an award. So I received an award in front of City Hall, where we used to demonstrate against. So it's such a irony, you know. I got that one. Wow, look at me, hippie day. Colombia, hippie, a lot of drugs. Is that hippie? See, I was never interested in clothes or something like that. I was interested in having a good time. And whatever I do, I just want to have good times. That's what I think it's Washington Square Park. Got it? Mm-hmm. Look at that, how straight I was before the hippie time. That's at Princeton. Look at that. Look at that. This is really straight. Yamasaki building. This is what he designed the World Trade Center. This is Woodrow Wilson building. Very straight.
Sacred Heart Girl.
Huh?
Sacred Heart Girl.
Yeah. Oh, this is my sister. We used to dress like a twin because my grandmother is really good seamstress. And she also sold a lot of the jacket for the underground movement, the anti-Japanese. So all the men's jacket had a pocket for guns. I remember she used to tell me. And she's illiterate. And but she was much more ahead of her time, unfortunately. My sister is terrible academically. I did all her homework. Yeah. This is too small. This is one of the movie I made for PBS. It's called Bittersweet Survival, about the first arrival of Hmong people. They dumped these poor, you know, like from Cambodia in Wisconsin. And they gave them Velveeta cheese. And these women didn't know Velveeta cheese. They thought it was soap. Yeah. I don't have too many production stills. I think it's awesome. I have boxes and boxes for junk, you know. So I don't know what happened to most of them. And this is the Hawaii International Film Festival. And look at all these people. And I won the grand prize, which was great. And one of the really great festival because it's East and West, you know. And the Hawaiians are interesting. They are very happy. You know, there's a very mixed race. Everybody's interracial marriage. Everyone. No one's pure. Okay. This is directing Wing Wang. You know Wing Wang, who made an awful film with Jennifer Lopez? It's a Maiden in New York.
Terrible.
But he made a first film called Chen is Missing. It was really first narrative film among the Asian Americans, black and white, and very, very successful. So later on, he started making this, corny romantic film. All right, next. Next is, oh, that's me too. Isn't it cute? So I was going to be an actress. Look at what happened. This was small.
Hold it still.
Oh.
Got it.
This is good. This is Namibia. Went to Africa to make a film for United Nations. It's called Namibia Independence Now, about the Namibians who cannot have their revolution inside of Namibia because they're surrounded by South Africans. So the temporarily government was located in Zambia and Angola. So I went there and made a film. And unfortunately, whatever you make for United Nations is not allowed to show in United States because United States government, Voice of America, whatever, they consider it as a propaganda film against the United States. That's a stupid policy. And now the film is in the basement of my storage, and I'm trying to, try to digitize it. So it's not really in circulation, but it's a good film. A lot of music too. This is a film from Spike to Spindles. It's a Mississippi triangle it's a Mississippi Chinese between blacks and white. And it's based on the James Sloan's Harvard thesis. It's a book. And I went down Mississippi, spent many, 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 many months. And unfortunately, it's also not in circulation because I was so stuck up. I refused to have the subtitles. Chinese speaks black Chinese accent English. Blacks speak Southern black English. Whites speak Southern white English. And no one understood it. And I was too proud to have a subtitle because I said, well, at least it's still English. It was big success in Germany because goddamn Germans put on German subtitles. And I wasn't thinking about it. So, mistake. And Julie Dash did it at the Daughter of Dust. The first one didn't have a subtitle. No one understood. So finally she had to put a subtitle. This is about African nationalism, This is a smaller camera. Oh, this is my friend in
Get
Princeton.
that one with the camera, with the smaller camera.
Oh, this is a much more sophisticated SR, quieter and beautiful camera, beautiful. I still have it. And with great lenses, I still really miss shooting film than this stupid video. I don't even know how to. Film has long history, over 100 years for preservation. I don't know how these things are going to preserve.